Hey kids, welcome back. Let's take a look at question number 24, shall we? So if we take a look at the answer choices, what do you notice? We notice apostrophes, right? We have apostrophes in all sorts of places. In screws, some of them don't have in screws. Right? Like answer choice D has no apostrophe in screws. You also see some answer choices that have apostrophes with the words threads and others that don't, right? So the SAT, first thing is you guys with apostrophes, the SAT can get all sorts of crazy, right? The SAT can put apostrophes wherever they want, right? And sometimes they place it in really, really weird places, but so don't always think that an answer choice is always grammatically correct, right? Because it's not. And in fact, you're being tested on that, right? So they're going to do things sometimes that are just absolutely ridiculous, and so you have to know how apostrophes are used. So and you also have to know how to solve these questions. So I am going to give you guys a foundational lesson on apostrophes. This is going to be excellent for those of you guys who've never been taught apostrophes before in school. You can also check out my previous video I did. It's a master class on apostrophes where I walk through everything from start to finish. So here I'll just talk about the foundational knowledge that you need to know to help you to solve this question. But if you guys want other or much more information, check out that other video, okay? So the first thing that you want to know, you guys, is notice how like answer choices A, let's look at answer choice A and B. So notice how the word thread, right, in answer choice A has an apostrophe with it. And notice how answer choice B here doesn't. It's just the plural noun form, okay? So this is going to be the first thing that you want to check for, right? One of the ways that the SAT tests you on apostrophes is between the possessive form and the plural noun form. Okay, so when you have an apostrophe S, right, it's used to show possession, right? When you have an apostrophe with a noun, it's used to show possession. So if I say something like, oh, Jin's car, right? Jin apostrophe S, car, right? That car belongs to me. It shows possession. If I say Jin's mom, right? Then doesn't mean that I own my mom or that I possess her, but it just means that these two nouns have some kind of relationship with each other. Okay, that's the possessive form. So that's when you have the apostrophe with the word, right? The apostrophe. The plural noun is just the noun without the apostrophe, right? It's like me saying books with the S without any apostrophe, or threads here. Okay, so this is the first tip that you want to know. It's a very cool shortcut. So whenever you have a possessive, whenever you have an apostrophe noun, right, there always has to be some other noun attached to it. There has to be another noun after it, right? So if I said something like Jack's car, notice how there's two nouns next to each other. There has to be nouns next to each other, okay? And that's because a noun has to possess another noun. A noun cannot possess nothing, right? So if I said Jack's and then I ended the sentence here, you guys would all stare at me and be like, what? Like Jack's what, right? Jack's what? Right? Because there is no noun, right, that the apostrophe noun can possess, right? So Jack's what, And so this is why you have to have another noun here, okay? So that's one thing that you're checking for. Now, it's okay to have some adjectives in between the two nouns. So it's okay to say Jack's yellow book, right? Jack's big and yellow book, right? But so it's okay to have some adjectives in between these nouns, right? But it's not okay to have like a verb. You can't say Jack's was at the bookstore, right? You can't have that, so you can't have a verb between these two nouns, right? That doesn't show possession. And you can't have prepositions, right? So you can't say Jack's to book, right? You can't have a preposition. It doesn't make any sense at all. And so you have to have these two nouns next to each other, okay? So why is that, or how is that information helpful? Well, it's helpful because now, if you notice answer choice A here, when you say threads with the apostrophe, well, the threads what, right? The threads what? There has to be some kind of noun for the threads to possess, right? But there is no noun for the threads to possess. So this is why you got to cross out, right? You can't have the apostrophe there, It's not the word thread is not being used to show possession. Right, so this is why now automatically I can cross out answer choices A and D. Okay, because I don't want the apostrophe there. I want the plural noun form. Right, now that's the first thing. The second thing that you want to check for, the second thing that I notice here is look at answer choices B and C. So B has the apostrophe after the S, right? The screws with the apostrophe. And then C has the apostrophe before the S, right? So screw apostrophe S, right? Right. So, and you have to decide, right? Should the word screw be singular possessive or should it be a plural possessive? Right now, this is where it's not just enough to just guess, right? This is where you guys heard me talk about this. You have to look for context clues. Guys, context is king on the SAT. Context just refers to the surrounding information. Now, the SAT is going to always, not sometimes, right, but always leave important details or context clues, right, surrounding the underlying blank. These context clues are the things that you need to recognize or see, right, to determine the correct answer, right? So you know that the SAT is an objective test, so they have to, make this standardized, right, and it has to be objective. The way that they make this test objective is, right, by absolutely 100%, right, giving you guys all of the information that you need in the passage. So you never need any sort of outside information to choose to get to the correct answer for these, okay? So now, like I said, if you guys watch some of my previous videos, so depending on what you're being tested on, right, there's different context clues that you have to look for. Right? So if you're being tested on verbs, for example, you have certain context clues that you have to look for. If you're being tested on pronouns, you have to look for other types of context clues, right? If you're being tested on apostrophes, you have to look for certain context clues. So every single concept or question type that you're being tested on has certain context clues that you need to look for or be aware of, right? So the context clues that I could give you for apostrophes are, I'll just give you a couple of them. Right. Well, I'll give you the one that you're looking for here is when you're deciding between a plural and a singular possessive, right? One of the things that you want to look for is other references to that noun. So what do I mean by this, right? So I'm looking for other places in the paragraph where the author talks about the noun screw, right? Where he talks about the noun screw. And I'm asking myself, does the author talk about this noun in the singular way, or does he talk about them in a plural way, right? And the reason I want to figure that out is I want to keep it consistent. Because if the author is just talking about one, so for example, well, if the author is just talking about one screw, I don't want to all of a sudden, right, talk about many screws, right? And vice versa as well, right? If the author is talking about many screws consistently throughout the paragraph, you don't just want to switch that, right, and just mention the possessive one screw, right, unless the sentence dictates it, right? So this is where you want to check for that, and so here, that's actually what you're reading for. Now, again, you guys, when you're doing this, don't be sloppy, right? A lot of students are sloppy with their work. You actually want to go back and you want to reread the passage, right? But now what you're looking for, but now with these context clues, you know exactly what you're looking for. Now that's where you're reading with a specific intention in mind. You're not just reading randomly. You're not just reading to read words. Now you're reading to see, right? How is he talking about screws, right? Now your reading will be much more focused, okay? So the passage reads, inventor John Friedman created a prototype of the first flexible straw by inserting a screw. Notice that, right? So he inserted a screw into a paper straw and using dental floss, binding the straw tightly around the screw's threads. Okay, so what screw, right? He's talking about a singular screw, right? So this explanation or this paragraph is really about the creation of this prototype of the first flexible straw, about how John Friedman created it, right? But as he's talking about how he created it, the writer tells us that John Friedman inserted a screw, right? So a means that it's singular, it's just one screw. So you want to keep that consistent, right? because now it wouldn't make logical sense for us to say, plural screws, right? Binding the straw tightly around the screws threads. So it wouldn't make any logical sense to all of a sudden say there was more than one screw here. So this is why you don't want to use the plural possessive, right? You want to use the singular possessive, right? So when we have the answer choice B here, the apostrophe after the S, that creates the plural possessive. What that means is this is referring to more than one screw, right? It's referring to many screws. Could be 10, 15, doesn't matter. More than one. When we have the apostrophe before the S, it's referring to the singular possessive, right? And that's referring to just one screw, okay? So because the other reference to that noun, right, is talking about the screw in the singular form, we want to keep that consistent, right? We'll choose something like answer choice C here, okay? And that'll be it, you guys. So hopefully you guys found that valuable. If you guys did, please like the video and comment in the comment box below. Please subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.